What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Doshi, and today we are having a game room tour. Not game room, but more of nostalgic vibes. Here we are with Alex from Nostalgia Junkies podcast. Brother, thank you for having us in your basement today.
Thanks for coming, dude.
And today we want to show everyone what he has in his collection. Just like in the past, we've had Cruise and Retro, we've had Brett, Rupee Collector, but this one I believe is on a whole nother level of collecting because there's barely any video games in here.
It's a lot of toys. But I mean, like, obviously, you see we have, like, the Nickelodeon shelf. Like, growing up, like, in those late 90s, early 2000s, like, Nickelodeon was so formative. And I know you and I talked a little bit earlier about, like, the reason why there's no video games is that I find it easier to collect the toys than the nostalgia, and I find the toys so much more nostalgic. Like, I love N64, Super Nintendo. I think that whole era is what I grew up on. But this to me brings back the memories. Cruz and I, we run Nostalgia Junkies podcast. Brandon was like one of the co-founders of that, but we also have our YouTube channel, No Cable Crew. And for me, where that name stemmed from was the fact that, I had no cable growing up. I'd go down to the public library and grab a VHS tape, and just about everything that you see in this room was a tape or a cartoon that I watched as a childhood that I picked up from the library. So it's like these colors, like it just, they pop out. And to me, they remind me of my childhood, which, and like, I feel like everybody knows, like, not everyone's childhood is like sunshine and roses. It's like, my mom was a para growing up. She made $15,000. We didn't know where sometimes our next paycheck was coming from, like how we're going to pay the rent. Like, the one thing I have to say that my mom did really well, though, we never feared, or I never feared where it was going to come from. Like, she never kind of let me in on that. But a lot of the memories that I have with her were like bonding over cartoons or bonding over video games. So for me, this reminds me a lot of my mom.
So I'm a 99 baby. A lot of this is familiar with me, right? Of course, you got Jimmy Neutron, who's looking two different directions right now.
He has the Sid eyes from Ice Age.
It's like, I've never even seen that before. Rugrats, of course, you got the iconic Rugrats. The orange and green colors, like you said, the nostalgic and the Nickelodeon, also including the purple, is so familiar, right? It's immediate. You used to watch Drake and Josh growing up.
Our Monsters, or Hey Arnold.
Hey Arnold, sorry. Yeah, there you go. It seems familiar, Real Monsters, but I don't think I've ever seen that. But Good Burger, yes, that looks like you had it autographed by one of the actors.
Yep, so it was autographed by Lori Beth Denberg and by Kel Mitchell.
And
so I don't have Kenan Thompson's autograph. And it was so actually I was at 90s Con a couple years ago, and I brought the Good Burger tape. This is when they're getting ready to announce Good Burger 2. And I had Kel Mitchell sign it. We're doing this whole panel with all that crew. Amanda Bynes had just dropped out of going to 90s Con. I'm sitting there with Brandon and one of our other friends, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if Kenan Thompson's going to come out. And next thing you know, Kenan Thompson walks out, and I yell, sign my tape. He didn't sign it, but I thought it was funny because People Magazine actually shared the video.
That's pretty dope, though. I mean,
yeah.
You got that. Obviously, I know Rocket Power. You gotta love Rocket Power. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of familiarity in here, and then you got this Danny Phantom. Yeah, My Teenage Robot. Yeah, I mean, I've watched a lot of Nickelodeon growing up. Maybe the older stuff that I've never seen before. But yeah, this whole thing like just screams childhood.
Exactly. So like, I mean, one thing you didn't touch on was God, what are these called? I'm blanking on what they're called now. They're from Kablam. They're Action League Now, which I don't know if it basically was like the Robot Chicken for kids before Robot Chicken was a thing. So what they would do, they had like a different series of shorts. We had Action League Now. We had My Life with, I'm blanking on these names, but it was just like a whole series of like different like little mini cartoons that was really funny. And to me, like the Action League Now stuff was like this hysterical. It was like parodies of different toy lines, whether it was like the Wonder Woman, you had G.I. Joe, you had He-Man, and there are these parodies that they just let play. And I mean, who doesn't love The Flash? You don't know The Flash, but you got to go back and watch some of these shows because it was just hysterical watching it. And you touched upon like the Jimmy Neutron, for example, with the wacky eyes. And so you notice his shirt's the wrong color, right?
Yeah, that's the first thing I noticed. It's not red.
So the reason it's not red is because in the pilot episode, he actually had a yellow shirt.
Oh, did he really?
So this toy was built off the pilot episode before the movie even came out. So then when they started like doing all the screen tests and yellow didn't test well, this was already made. So they kind of had to roll with it. But if I could pull this out without knocking everything down, you'll notice that then they have the red shirt right there. They have the Yucatamians. We have Goddard. We have Nick. And it's like they actually then shifted in the toy for the red shirt Jimmy. Like his eyes look a lot better than on this one. Like, I mean, this one, the eyes are just, I mean, they are looking two different directions. He sees you coming, whether you're coming from the left or the right. But
that's super sick though.
I know. So what was your favorite cartoon growing up then on Nickelodeon?
Mine?
Yep.
On Nick, I would say Fairly Odd Parents.
Really?
Yeah, that show was like, I don't know, just something about getting anything you want as a kid. You know what I mean? It was like pretty cool. The idea of it, you know, it kind of left your imagination thinking like, you know, what if I had Fairly Odd Parents, what would I wish for? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's like for me, like I love the Crimson Chin episodes, Crash Nebula, and then do you remember the Halloween episode with the little pumpkin robots?
Yes.
That to me, that was like the best Halloween episode of a show.
They had and they had a couple, you know, like references or collaborations. Remember the TV remote episode, right?
Channel Chasers.
Yes.
Yep.
You know,
I think that other than some of maybe the Jimmy Neutron movies, I think that was one of the best TV movies that Nickelodeon did was Channel Chasers.
Yeah, and the Power Hour for Jimmy Neutron.
Dude, just see, this is the thing. It brings back memories. And like, dude, we're just here at the Nickelodeon shelf, and there's easily another 50 shelves in this basement. But we're just at the Nickelodeon shelf, and it's like, I wish to me, like you said, Fairly Odd Parents. So another property from Butch Hartman was Danny Phantom.
Correct.
Which, as a fan of superheroes, like that to me was the best cartoon on Nickelodeon. Like I have rewatched the Danny Phantom series at least 3 times in the last decade, just because I want to. I introduced it to my wife. My wife now loves the show. Like we hum the theme song just like walking down the stairs sometimes. So what are you humming? Like, oh, it's a Danny Phantom theme song. I was like, well, I'm like, I don't know. We're gonna test your toy knowledge because I know you were just at Shop Curiosity, and looking for toy knowledge. What do you think on that top shelf is the rarest piece?
It would obviously have to be something obscure to me. I don't know, probably like these. If I had to guess, I don't know.
So those are actually from Target.
Are they really?
They're from Target. So in my opinion, granted, like I'm not a huge toy reseller. I do a little bit on the side to fund this madness. But the 2 rarest pieces, mainly just because they're complete, would be the Skate Bali Scareglow skateboard. I've only seen 3 of these at all, and I've only seen 1 Scareglow, and that's the one that's here. But then it's the Battle Bones.
That tiny thing?
That tiny thing. So what's funny is, so this little toy line is called Pocket Powers, and it was designed by Sega. So there's like little guns, there's like little helicopters, things like sky dancers, but the Battle Bones is a glow-in-the-dark skeleton. But it was released by a video game company as a whole toy line that you could really just put in your pocket and bring wherever you wanted to play. But this one is complete, all the joints work, all the accessories are there. And it's funny because every time Cruz comes over, he's like, when are you gonna sell me that Battle Bones? It's like, I'm not. That stays here.
But do you think the fact that it's being chased for is because of what it is, or the story behind it? Like you said, it's a Sega thing.
I think it's a combo of 3 different things. One, the story behind it. The fact that that was a toy line that was designed by a video game company is a huge draw. 2, it's difficult to complete. So if you can get it complete, it instantly gets grabbed up. And 3, as I kind of pointed out, it's a skeleton, and a lot of people are gravitating towards like the skulls and skeletons.
Because like to me, you know what I mean, it just looks like any other like you said, like Target, you know what I mean? Like, okay, that looks like something you don't get from Target, but there's something like, you know what I mean, you would see in the kids section. So.
If you pop it out of its actual case, it looks like a dollar bin toy.
Yeah.
But in reality, we're talking a couple $100.
That's crazy.
It's not what I paid for it, but like if you look at like the eBay comps, like the thing complete goes from like $175 to $250, and it's insane.
I would have never guessed that, bro.
I know, especially because it's like 2 inches tall.
It's so simple and basic that it's just kind of crazy that the value for that would be so high.
What do you know about Mighty Max?
Mighty Max.
Yep. So this shelf right here.
Never heard of it.
So these are like mini play sets that were developed originally by the Bluebird company, and then Mattel kind of seized the property, and all they are is like the boy equivalent of Polly Pockets.
Never heard of those either.
That's really all they are, and it's getting the accessories becomes super difficult. I've found that they're very difficult to display. So these are like some of the bigger pieces, but I mean, as you notice, I made use of shelves over there. If you look right up here, I have different Mighty Max, like just cases and shelves, most of which are 100% complete. And so like when I want to play with one of them, I just pull it off.
That's convenient.
Yeah. And then we just open it up and it has all these little accessories in here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's very detailed.
Yeah. And it's like, there's always like little play action features, like whether it's the front of the door, you have Frankenstein's table. Like there's just so much that like happens in these, and then that happens too. But it's been fun like trying to make use of this space. And I had this idea to do that, and I mean it worked out really well. I love this idea so much I put my Tiger Electronics over here too. And I just like, again, every single one works. But yeah, so that's just making use of the space, man. Like I'm running out of shelves. It's just interesting to see the influence that various toy lines have on each other. I feel like that to me is also one of the reasons why I really love just collecting toys.
But that's also why you say like, that's why there's bootlegs out there too, right?
Yep. So right here we have my bootleg shelf, which I have made into a mini toy collection for the bootlegs, which I took way too much time setting up those Power Rangers in the back, the little mini Motu figures. The amount of times that those things have fallen, I've thought about just chucking them across the room. But I mean, we have everything from, bootleg Street Sharks right here. Like these were called Ocean Warriors, and they're just a crazy, derpy looking line. Like even the paint sculpts are not great, but they just look ridiculous and janky I have bootleg Extreme Dinosaurs, and like, again, just, they have like that same just derpy expression where they look panicked and manic the entire time. But collecting the bootlegs has been like, I'm always knocking stuff down, but like, it's just been really fun to see what's out there. Cause it's like, I feel like a lot of people know DuckTales, right? Yes. A lot of people know Darkwing Duck. A lot of people know Power Rangers. But have they seen all the bootlegs? And finding the bootlegs is where it's been really interesting. Like, we were just at Shop the Curiosity the other week, and our buddy Lucas had these just ridiculous looking bootleg Tiger Sharks, which is already a rare line in itself. Like, not many people know about Tiger Sharks. Like, Tiger Sharks was a toy line that was released by LJN, which is the same company that released Thundercats.
Okay.
But this, like, it's a bootleg. It's a toy line that was already super rare, that then got a weird, derpy looking bootleg that then somebody made on a custom card. So, I mean, I'll be pulling this off card just because it'll display better.
Do you think that bootlegs are becoming more sought out than the official figures? And I heard that this is because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the bootlegs are the ones that people bought back then more so than the official lines because they were more affordable back then, right?
Agreed. I think especially within our circle of friends, bootlegs are definitely more sought after. I would say generally over the scope, I'm seeing more increase in it, but I think it's also like influencer for YouTube. We see a lot of like the guys that we know through video games talking about like what video games are popular, and then everyone's after those video games and what video games are selling well. And we see them constantly like, okay, well, it's time to pick up like Piglet's Big Adventure. Like, how many people are now fighting for that game, where that game was a $10 bargain game for years, but now that it has subtle horror influences, I mean, what's it selling for now?
It's like 100 plus.
Exactly.
At least, yeah.
Exactly. The same influence that you have like for video games, we also have for the toy scene. And like, they started talking about Mad Balls, about Skullman from Remco, and about bootlegs. And now everybody wants to get it because, it's like, and it feels almost like it's this person is talking about this now, I need to go pick it up. And it's like that FOMO for toys.
Yeah.
But like, as you said, like, it was stuff like what a lot of us had growing up. And I mean, as someone who like, grew up going to Ocean State Job Lot and bargain and just like little convenience stores, a lot of my toys were bootlegs. It's like these little guys up here, which they're called Lenarcor. And Corpses, they're just like little spaceman GI Joes, but these were like ones that I had growing up. And you know our boy Spruce.
Yes.
When he had a whole just like bin of them, and as soon as I saw them, like my face lit up, and I was like, "How much do you want from me?" He basically just gave them away. So this was like fun to like start building that back up. 'Cause, like these are the ones that I used to play with as a kid so much. I'd play with them so much the O-rings would snap. But
yeah, those are the problems with those kind of GI Joes. Yeah, the O-rings will always get dried up and snap. And, yeah, I'm familiar with those myself. So, how many years of collecting has this been for you?
We really kind of got back into it during COVID. So from 2020 to now, like about going on 5 years. It all started with one figure. It started with one big Slamu figure from Valentine's of 2021, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I talked about like growing up and like watching Street Sharks. Like my wife knows like Street Sharks was like my bread and butter. Like I would go down to the library, I'd grab that Street Sharks tape, and I would watch it so many times till the tape would break. I loved Street Sharks growing up. So when it got to be the first Valentine's of our first year of marriage, she bought me a big Slamu Street Shark. And then that's when we started going to Retro Junk with Brandon and just started acquiring more, and I became friends with him. And then we got to know Cruz and I got to know him. We hit up flea markets, antique malls. We have family in Nebraska, Michigan, Tennessee, Illinois, and we travel all across the country to see them. And instead of stopping off at like your rest stops or a Target, we stop off at antique malls, and that's where we use the bathroom. So like, you know, a 5-minute pit stop becomes an hour because we get sidetracked by something. But that's like when you find like the crazy things. And one thing that we've noticed is like different locations in the country have different pockets of fandoms. So like, you know, there was a lot of Star Wars glasses that was available up here, and my wife is a huge Star Wars collector. And so every time we go down to Tennessee, she's looking to complete like the Burger King Star Wars glasses, but there were never any down there. Like for 2 years, we went to almost every single place that we could find in Tennessee and Kentucky. Not a single glass, but they had Star Trek glasses. They had the Congo. They had even like, you know, your generic, like, you know, Mayor McCheese glass, but there was never any Star Wars glasses. But then we go to Nebraska and there's a whole case full of them.
Yeah, it's just like East Coast or West Coast, you know, like there's games over there. There's certain things that you just won't find that's within the culture of the state, stuff like that. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and I mean, this is definitely blown up over the years, and it's just been funny. Like I think becoming good friends with 2 local video game and like toy store owners has definitely helped feed that. Doing the podcast has also helped that, because like some of the stuff I picked up for like research purposes, or what I call research purposes, because I want to learn about it and I want to know about it, and I find like the story's been just super interesting of how it came to be. Like we were just talking about the Cyborgs. Brandon had a Cyborg sitting on a shelf for probably 2 years. We had no idea what it was. We thought it was a toy. I think we thought it was a Black Star figure, which is another kind of under the radar toy line. And I Google lensed it, and it came up with Cyborgs, and I started reading about it, and it was just very cool. So like I bought it, I picked it up, and then we know a lot of like just like the general just toy vendors at the different shows, and someone had another one, my wife bought me one, Cruz got me one, and we've just been building up the toy line. I think there's 6 figures in total, and I have 4. But it's just crazy, like what you find. Like, you know, Spruce put me on to Snailians, which is another just crazy looking toy line. Killer Carp got me into Battle Beasts. You know, Apuzo got me into Army Ants. You know, we find crazy things, and it's like, to me, part of like picking this stuff up, it's the backstory of what it was. It's the childhood nostalgia, but it's also the memories made along the way. Like, you know, when you see like your boys getting excited about something, and they're like so into it, it gets you excited too.
Of course.
Like it makes you happy to see your friends happy.
And I can see how passionate you are about these shows. So, you know what I mean? And I'm learning a lot. So I'm actually pretty intrigued in this entire culture of collecting, you know, on this whole opposite side. Out of all the pieces, what's your most like prized possession? What's your favorite piece out of all of them? For me, it's funny because I actually learned about this last at Shop Curiosity, but Apuzo was teaching me about this.
Yep.
And we saw it loose.
Yep.
This has so many features in it.
Yeah.
And this was super dope. And now that he taught me about it, I'm familiar with it. So I thought this was pretty cool, and I think out of everything besides the creepy crawlers, this is the coolest thing you got on the shelf, in my opinion. Because I know the backstory behind it.
So, coolest or like my favorite? That's kind of
your favorite, your personal.
My favorite would be the Spider-Man Rip and Rev cycle, right down there at the bottom. That was something that I had growing up, and the house that we lived in had a sidewalk that ran along just like the edge of the property. And I mean, I would just rip and rev that thing and fly down the sidewalk. But it just the colors on it, from that purple to that orange, it's gorgeous.
I wasn't expecting you to choose that, actually.
No.
I
mean, it'd be easy for me to say the Mad Balls Mad Roller Cycle, because there's also a very interesting story of how I picked it up. But like, that's why I said the coolest thing or my favorite thing. Like my favorite is definitely that. The coolest thing on this shelf, if we're going for look, I would say this. If they're going for story, I would say the Creeple People. But I mean, I found the Mad Ball Roller Cycle at a comic shop in East Hartford. It was in the box. The guy had $75 on it. The tape was slid open, but like when I opened it, the vacuum sealed packaging were all still sealed.
It was
yeah. And I mean, I opened it up because, as you see, like I have all my head poppers here lined up, and I didn't want to display the horn head in a vacuum sealed package. Like I used to be very much like, if it's carded, it stays carded. And over the past few years, I'm like, well, I will enjoy it more if it's not carded.
That's what David was telling us too, right? He was like, I'd rather display it outside of a cart, because also it takes up a lot of shelving space. You can't see the figure if it's in a box. Yeah, I've been told the same thing from him. So
yeah, so I mean, I have stuff that's carded, I have stuff that's boxed, like, as you can see, and it becomes the focal point of a shelf. So
that giant Surge, that was what was Surge before it got rebranded? Or was Surge its own thing?
Surge was kind of its own thing. It was, I believe it was Coca-Cola Company who had released it. It basically was their version of Mountain Dew. We then got Volt, we've had X, like all these different sodas. But like Surge, those colors are just iconic. That green and that red. I've been looking for one of these for probably the better part of 4 years. And then to finally find one, give me a second. Sorry, that was still going on. I don't want that messing up your mics. So I've been looking for one of these for about 4 years. And you know, we've seen them go up for like ridiculous amounts of money. And I'm kind of the person that's like, as much as I want something, I want it at a good deal. I don't want to bankrupt myself. I don't want to spend way over what something's worth. And then we had a Coca-Cola bottle here for the longest time that we found in Ohio. And I had joked with Brandon and Cruz that, you know, like, I'm going to keep it, but as soon as I find a Surge bottle, it can go to one of your stores. And I was just scrolling through Facebook Marketplace one time. I have like my radius is like 50 to 100 miles on Facebook Marketplace. And I saw the Surge cooler go up, and it was in New Jersey. And so I reached out to the guy at like 2 a.m, like saying, sorry for the late message, but like, I want this. And we ended up driving down like the next weekend, and we picked it up. And we just put a video out on our channel for it. And I mean, this is just a really cool store display piece that still works, by the way.
So it is. So yeah, it's a cooler, right?
It's an actual cooler. I don't have it plugged in. I used to hold different plushies and random things. It's like I have a couple coolers, and they're all catch-alls. They just put random things in there. But the actual label looks really good. The plastic, like, there's no like warping on the plastic. It's not brittle. The gasket's still here. The fact that the cap is also like not shattered. Like, the plastic that's been used for these on these different displays becomes so brittle. On the Coke bottle one that I had, it would like, so white plastic yellows over time. And the more that it yellows, you can tell that that's the more brittle it will become. It's probably more of an off-white at this point. And if you just grab the cap, it'll like start to flake. That's why you always gotta kind of grab by this portion. But this thing is like, I mean, my wife knows when we drove down, like I was like the whole way down, just like big smile. Like, it was a 4-hour drive to New Jersey, and I just had the biggest smile all 4 hours in the middle of a snowstorm. Just super excited to pick this up.
It's kind of hilarious that just a giant bottle cooler can excite someone, right?
Right, and that's where it's like, it's people like what they like, man. Like, whether it's store displays, whether it's Transformers, whether it's, No, Ninja Turtles. Like, some people love Ninja Turtles. Not me, but what do you know about Inhumanoids?
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I'll be honest, neither have I until a couple years ago. But they're like the just weirdest monster line from like late 80s Hasbro. And this is the other thing we're talking about with toys and like the toy aisle. It's like, I don't think that we see toys of this size anymore.
Oh.
Like, if we do, they're like, you know what, $80, $100 toys, if
And
not more.
They probably be like just Godzillas and King Kongs, like those Star Wars
all the time.
Yeah, those kind of things.
Yeah, where it's like the amount of articulation, detail, and design on like the Inhumanoids line is just, it's impeccable. For like, this was like an 80s toy line that was released, and the light piping that's done, the, like, again, like I just said, the detail, but you could really see that at the time, these toy makers, these designers had a passion for what they did. And it wasn't just about, you know, getting that money. It was about, let's create an experience.
Right.
And like, you know, I talked a little bit earlier about how I had a conversation with Kirk Bazigian and Bob Budiansky. And I, like, to me, talking to these guys, like the developers of Transformers and G.I. Joe and all these toy lines, like, they are like, you know, I don't want to say they're up here, but they are the guys that develop these such iconic and nostalgic brands. So I'm asking them about it. Like, you know, what was it like designing Transformers? What was it like designing Inhumanoids? And to them, it's like, I showed up and did my job. And they're so humble about it that, you know, having grown up on these, and we're now on the other side where like we're seeing current lines influenced by this stuff, we're coming in with nostalgia glasses, where to them, it was just their job.
Yeah.
Like, they showed up, they made a toy line, they designed a toy, they designed a series, and if it worked well, it worked well. If it didn't, they did the next idea. And it's crazy to think about that. Like, you know, when I talked to Kirk Bazigian, he was talking about, you know, developing James Bond Jr., Cowboys of Mesa, and Humanoids, and all this time that got spent in designing these, where in reality, like, yeah, there are fans of James Bond Jr. and Inhumanoids and Cowboys of Mesa, but none of those toy lines really took off. I think the one that lasted the longest was Cowboys of Mesa, which got 1 to 2 seasons of a cartoon. It got an arcade game, a video game, and it has a toy line. But it was nowhere near the volume of what even Street Sharks was. And it's just, it's insane that they sunk all this time into that. And it's essentially, I don't want to say it's a failed toy line, but it wasn't a popular toy line.
Right. But I feel like, you know, like back then, right? That's like the 90s, like touch, 80s touch. There was just a lot of creativity, original ideas, you know, artistic, like creativity behind it. And if it, like you said, if it didn't work, they scrapped it, started a new thing, project. Today, we would get something, right, that isn't original. And of course, us as beings, there's only so much you can, you know, create imagination, but it takes too long for something else to come out. And it's just a repetitive of the same characters. You know, I just, you know, even if it's a bootleg of something, it still has its own charm, right? Like, I'm not gonna lie, like these right here look really cool to me, whatever these are.
So like, they're these little trees that were from Inhumanoids. They're ridiculous, but like we were talking about, it's like, it's the copies of the same character for like new toy lines. I mean, they did the same things with the old lines, and that was a way that a lot of these toy companies saved money, is that they would use the same exact mold to release a new figure, and they just choose different colors. So it's like it's like Red Sun, Redwood, and one of them has a different name. But then those 3 trees, but then this guy also has a tan version that they're different characters, but it's the same exact mold. And I think that's really interesting that that was what toy companies did. I think they were better about it back in the day. Like, they actually designed, they were part of the show. They had like, they were designed to be the same in the cartoon, but also be different. And they explained it well. Where like nowadays, when we see toy companies reusing these same exact molds for figures, all they're doing is basically just the same way that we use a different paint line, but they really should be completely unique characters, but we're using the exact same mold. Remember the, you might have been a little before your time, but I'm sure you've seen the pictures of like all the different seats that used to be in McDonald's.
Right, yeah, the Hamburglar ones and stuff like that, right.
And we don't have that anymore. Like you're saying, like, let's be real, every single thing looks like it's an Airbnb nowadays.
Yeah.
Like even Starbucks. Like Starbucks was always kind of that way, but Starbucks somehow even became a muted version of itself. And it's sad that, like, you know, these places we went, like Taco Bell. Taco Bell used to be so much fun. All the colors of the teal and the purple going in there.
Yeah.
And now it's gray and brown.
And the Chihuahua commercials. Yeah,
that's when Taco Bell went downhill. As soon as they fired the Chihuahua, it
mascots aren't a present thing anymore, right? Ronald McDonald's isn't seen anymore. It's not just for, right, like, you know, like this video is also just nostalgia in general, right? It's not just about toys. It's just about
that's
the reality of what we're trending to.
I'm sure you saw coming down the stairs. Like that's why I have a mascot shelf. Is like just we don't see that anymore. We don't see, like, you know, little mascots for the candies, for, you know, the cereal. We see some for the cereals, but not the commercials.
Right, anymore. Tony the Tiger isn't really a thing anymore.
Toucan Sam, the bunny from Tricks. Like, here, let's go and look at it for a little
even
bit.
Chuck E. Cheese, you know what I mean? Like
it doesn't just, like, even down to, like, you know, yeah, like there's a lot with, you know, we have Chick-fil-A, we have the Warheads guy, we have Mr. Kool-Aid, but there was the bug for the Raid commercials.
Yep.
There was the little spaceman for HP Intel. Like the fact that everything had a mascot, Scrub and Bubbles, everything had a mascot.
Yeah.
And we don't get that at all anymore. It's really like, hey, you can come here, and I feel like they dove more now into experience. Like you come in and experience going to McDonald's, you experience going to Taco Bell, but they're not capturing that same joy.
And the kids today will just, honestly, anyone born after like 2015, 16, you know, it's done. You know, like that's the dinosaur from Kraft, right?
Yep.
Is that
Kraft
yeah,
mac and
that's
cheese.
What I'm saying. Like when was the last time anyone saw
Cheezosaurus Rex? Like we don't see it anymore.
No one sees that, right?
There's
no one
nothing.
knows who the Kool-Aid Man is anymore. It's kind of
the Noid. Like, I mean, I'm sure the Noid was before your time too.
Yeah.
But it's like we don't get any of that, and it's frustrating because, you know, I feel like growing up in those, like the 80s, 90s, 2000s, like this, like you would turn on the TV and how often would you see like a Honeycomb Critter commercial? Like
you'd see Chester Cheeto all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like what was his catchphrase? It's not easy being cheesy.
Yeah.
Like, and we don't get it anymore. It's sad because it's like, you know, I wish there was a channel that would just play old commercials, like other than like going on YouTube, but I wish, like, you know, pulling up Nickelodeon, when we would watch Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network growing up, it was just commercials geared towards kids.
Yes. And
they don't really do that anymore. It's whatever's buying the advertising slot.
Even the infomercials back then were just fun. They were fun.
Dude, the amount of infomercials I saw for Floam and Zoo Pals and Zoo Books growing up.
And we all know the songs by heart.
Oh,
you know, those who watched it, we all know the songs.
Exactly.
We still hum them, sing them, you know.
Yep. Dude, I got the Zoo Pals theme song going in my head right now.
Just spaced out, exactly. But like that's just the impact.
And with a Chia Pet. But yeah, we don't
see the Yoo-hoo bunny. Was it not Yoo-hoo? Nesquik.
Nesquik, right?
Yeah,
Nesquik. I think he might still be on the bottle, but it's not done as much anymore, and it's sad because it's like, you know, this is what we would see at the supermarket growing up.
The boxes and everything, yeah.
And granted, it was great marketing because, I mean, this is what you got invested in. You got invested in the character, not as much the product. Like, quite honestly, like Frosted Flakes are not my favorite cereal. I think Frosted Flakes are kind of just a really bland version of Raisin Bran. Like, I actually prefer Raisin Bran to Frosted Flakes. But who didn't love Tony the Tiger?
Right.
And like, we all wanted to, I mean, at least I wanted to, like, growing up, like, have a bowl of Frosted Flakes and go, they're great.
Right, or go out and play outside,
exactly.
Right? Because they always promoted, like, you know, physical activity. Right?
We're like, to me, they're mid. But yeah, it's very fun seeing what all these are and like learning more about them. And it's like, do you remember the Pop-Tart commercials?
Yes.
Little hand-drawn Pop-Tart commercials?
Of course.
I would love to find like a figure of that. Like, the best I have is like a to-go container that's in the shape of a Pop-Tart. But dude, to me, those are like the best commercials.
They were. And like you know, like we agreed on, it's just, that's gone.
Yeah.
I don't see it coming back.
No.
Ever. Those colors, the animation, even if they modernize the animations, it just won't hit the same.
And then like another thing I've been picking up are these Colorforms, which I don't know how much you know about Colorforms.
Not at all.
Basically, what it would be is like you'd have a static image, and then you'd have these little like peel and like restickable stickers that you could create a scene and just use all your like whatever it is, whether it's like Ninja Turtles, I have Ghostbusters, we have Power Rangers.
So it's like making your own diorama kind of thing.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
And the fact that like they marketed basically reusable sticker books, and that's what they are. And it's just super fun. Like this was a super popular line during the 70s to 80s that it was, but even before like Ninja Turtles, Transformers, it was just random like little people, like no actual properties, just random stickers. And like that's what, like, you know, I know my mom, my father-in-law, like that's what they grew up on. And then like we started picking these up, and these are actually branded Colorforms, and they've been interested in it because it kind of brings them back to their days. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah, they even stickers were fun back then, right?
I know it's crazy what we find interesting. Like, you know, I have a whole shelf of just sticker books, but it's all the merchandising stuff that like we don't see nowadays. We don't see that care, meticulous nature put into the like the golden books, the story books, the VHS, like just the branding all around, even the lunch boxes. Like,
yeah,
I mean, how often do you see branded lunch boxes anymore that aren't that soft ones?
Who uses lunch boxes anymore? That's the question.
I mean, I do.
Well, but you know what I mean, like you know, the colorful ones, you know, the ones based off the characters.
There are a couple kids at school that have lunch boxes, but in general, most of them just get whatever the school lunch is, which, you know, is that great cafeteria pizza.
Yeah. That good pizza with the pepperonis on it.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex, this is the final room that you haven't shown us yet. Mm-hmm. What's the story behind this room right here? Because these are behind glass cases, unlike everything else. So
this is my office. This is where I kind of put, like, you know, a lot of my favorite stuff, you know, the more expensive stuff, and just stuff that's from childhood. So, you know, Pokemon was a big influence for me. I know that we talked about that a little bit, but this was like my first love as a child. So that's kind of why it is like the center of the room.
The shrine.
This Pokemon Red cartridge was my one from childhood. And then I just kind of built up the entire loose game collection. And everything that's here has had inspiration from like just growing up, whether it's Transformers, Power Rangers, like down to like Mario. It's been stuff that's been fun to do. And like what I started with as a kid, like we talk about, like everything's planned out here. Mm-hmm. What was like my love as a little kid has expanded out to, like, you know, I became like a huge fan of Street Sharks, which is over there on the left, to then even like gross out and crazier toy lines as I got older. It's like while the stuff down here at the bottom wasn't from childhood, it's loves that I've had of like just crazy random stuff, like the almost knockoff toys, like whether or not knockoff, like the Stormtroopers at the bottom, it's meticulous with all the layout, and like, so dude, I love it.
All this is just like the stuff that's near and dear to your heart.
Exactly. And it's like
main part.
Working in here, like having just finished, you know, my doctoral program, I spent so many hours down here writing papers. I wanted to be surrounded by things, which I know that sounds super capitalist, but I wanted to be surrounded by things that I loved looking at. Like I didn't want to sit in a cold office. I wanted to sit in something that kind of reflects who I am. And it's funny, I've actually been in job interviews down here where like people, like when they Google your name during a job interview, they mention nostalgia junkies, and it's like, yep, that's me. And then like I unblur or undo like the zoom filter background, and they see this and they're like, oh. And it's funny because like those job interviews have like gone from like we're talking about like what we're doing in the school or what we're doing for evaluating educational procedures to now like I've had people like, is that Power Rangers in the background? Like, is that a Dragon Zord? And like you see the joy in like their faces. And it's because I've gotten to work with a couple of these people's contractors, and it's been fun to like, you see how their inspiration for like what they grew up and what they learned, like just drives their passion for what they do now.
The shoes, you mind talking about that to the audience?
Yeah. So growing up, you know, we didn't have a lot of money. We had like very, very little money. And a lot of my shoes came from Sabres or Goodwill, or I got them as a gift from like, you know, a family friend, or like I never really had new shoes growing up. And so when I got my first like, you know, big boy job, I was a teacher, my first paycheck, mind you, I was still living on a futon. Like my first paycheck went to buying a pair of shoes, because like it was actually these pairs of the maroons, they call the peanut butter and jellies. Like I always wanted foam posits growing up, So I bought a pair of foam posits, and then it was like every paycheck I bought a new shoe. And I was teaching high school at the time, and it was something like I bonded with my students about because they were all sneakerheads and I was a sneakerhead. I just could never really afford being a sneakerhead. And then I finally got like a real job, and other than making coffee and working retail, I got a real job, and I was able to really kind of dive into that passion. And I was flipping sneakers. So I'd buy and resell my sneakers, and that was how I started making money as a side hustle. And I really, at this point, I've boiled down to the sneakers that I have are just the sneakers that I like wearing. And I traded a lot of sneakers that I did not wear anymore and built this.
Yeah, a lot of pairs, bro.
This is a third of the sneaker collection.
You have thousands of stories.
Yeah, like, I mean,
on the air.
The Mighty Morphin Power Ranger stuff, I think, has been like probably the best story. It's like we found the Dragon Zord is actually sealed. The same place that I found the roller cycle, I actually found that a different year. And so I picked that up. And then I found the Megazord in Tennessee at a comic shop. They had just gotten an entire collection of toys from this guy. And when I tell you that he had almost every single toy line from 1993 through 1999, he had everything with boxes. All the boxes were folded in different totes, but that had just gotten put out on the floor. It hadn't been priced yet. And I picked it up. And then I figured, well, if I have the two, I have to go for a Titanus. And so that was a 1.5 year long search, which on our channel, we did a whole series of like hunting for a Titanus. And then in our last stop in Tennessee, we found it. And like, this has just been fun, because I know you were just at D-Mac's place too.
Yeah.
And we were joking, because I had the Dragon Zord and the Megazord, and he had Titanus. And so we were kind of like, who's going to get the other ones first? And
you ended up winning that.
Driving around the country for family and toy hunting kind of does that. I mean, yeah. I don't think he's as he goes out as much as we do. He's definitely in it and definitely looking for them, but like his schedule is just different.
For you as a collector, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the end game for you? Is there an end game for you? Would you ever feel a sense of fulfillment when you finish collecting what you want, or do you always think there's going to be something new that pops up that you'll learn about that'll get put on the shelf?
I think that there's always gonna be something else. Like, I would love to tell you that like this is like the end game, because it's like, Street Sharks was like one of my first loves, and I've collected almost every single figure from the main line. There's like 2 in the Space Force that I would love to get, but yeah, like, I mean, I feel like, yeah, that's complete for me. Like, even like the Pokemon games, like, yeah, that's complete for me. There's no more games for me to get from like the actual physical cards. However, there's always something, whether it's promotional materials or like little things. Like, we just found like the Street Sharks silver Mylar balloon sealed in pack, and it was $2, but it's something fun, and so I added it to the shelf. So that's where, like, there's always going to be something else. I think that there's a sense of contentment with what you have. I don't want to say it's complete, but like, yeah, I'm happy with what I built, and if my financial situation changed to where like I couldn't hunt anymore, I'd be upset, but I'd be okay with what I had. If it changed to the point where I had to sell all of this, again, yeah, I'd be sad. But at the end of the day, it's just things. Like, it's family comes first.
Yeah, it's just things. Right? It's just plastic. Yeah, bro. This was definitely a good walk through nostalgia for me.
And we can definitely come back and look at stuff we didn't even see yet.
I'm down for that, for sure. So, awesome. Guys, I'm going to put his Instagram profile in the description. Give him a follow. He posts reels every other day on nostalgic-based content. And check out his podcast as well. Very great podcast. He's finishing up his
Season 3.
Season 3. And maybe we'll be featured on the podcast soon too. But nonetheless, hopefully you enjoy his... A lot of talking.
Thundercat got your tongue.
A lot of talking. But nonetheless, hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. Plug in Nostalgia Doshi. I'll catch you all later.